Pinterest sort of got me interested in the idea of better organizing photos, and that led the idea that maybe I could organize other things like text and clips from articles and things like that. So I tried bookmarking sites, and they were useful to some degree, but I really wanted to be able to organize more things, and so Clipboard allowed me to do that. And speaking of Pinterest, one of the number one requests is private boards, and so it's great, like you're saying, that Pinterest on one side allows you everything's public, and then with Clipboard everything defaults private. So that's something I really enjoyed. One issue I had was I was trying to organize some complex articles that had lots of different parts, and so I tried to use the tag system in Clipboard, but there were just so many different layers, and they all kind of interacted in different ways, and so the tagging system, I was having trouble bringing it all together. I know it. We've talked about Evernote some, but my question is: have you considered allowing notebooks in addition to tags? Is that something you might do in the future?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, and there's actually a lot of issues that you've hit upon. There's the question of tags versus folders versus boards versus some other organizational principle.
Right.
There's the question of altering order and giving some degree of greater customization of whatever principle you're using for organizing things. One thing that I'll hold up as an ideal from a UI perspective, let me put out two things. First, it's easy to add new features, hard to take them away.
Right.
Secondly, when you have competing metaphors that are nominally for the same thing, you can oftentimes end up with the worst of all possible worlds instead of the best. And I'm a fan of Hulu. I'm a subscriber to Hulu Plus. I really like the service a lot. But I'll say that as a user, I struggle with their product because they have three conflicting metaphors for me trying to find stuff that I like. They have subscriptions, they have a queue, they also have favorites on the website. And for the life of me, I still can't figure out how do I find new shows that I like. Because
right.
It's not in any three of those things, and so my cognitive overload in trying to understand, well, is that in my queue or am I subscribed to that or whatever, just kind of fails. I feel like if we added folders and tags, we would end up with something that would have some of the same inefficiencies. And I'll be honest with you, I think Evernote suffers from that a little bit. They have folders, they have tags, they have metadata, so they have lots of different metaphors. Gmail was very bold by saying, we're going to do tags, right? And we'll have some higher level things like your inbox, your sent, and your trash as kind of like meta tags in some sense.
Right.
And, and it's kind of a mixed result in terms of whether that's working or not. But so I'm just kind of like painting out the landscape for you now in terms of how we think about this.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, so to get a little bit more concrete with respect to your question, what we're going to do in the near future is we're going to elevate the notion of a tag as being much more of a first-class citizen within the system. We're probably going to refine the language a little bit. We might end up calling a tag to be treating it as being synonymous with creating a clipboard, and we're going to give that a visual representation where it's very clear that this is a first-class atomic entity that you can take actions on. So, for example, a tag will be a visual grouping of things. You will be able to share the tag. You will be able to act on the tag as an atomic unit. And I think that will go, when people see that as a singular unit, they'll learn to understand that you can do actually anything with a tag that you could do with a folder. And in some sense, a tag is actually more powerful because you can have one object assigned to two tags. Whereas sometimes with folders, it's not clear whether they're supposed to be non-overlapping or not, where tags are clearly overlapping. So we'll get a little bit better in the future of promoting the idea that our organizational metaphor, a tag or a clipboard or whatever it is that we call it, is a distinct unit that you can take actions on, and you can share it, and you can see them as things in their own right. With all that said, I'll share with you a little bit of one detail about our internal metrics. Tags are wildly successful on Clipboard. So even though 70% of our clips remain private, 30% are public, over all clips, approximately 40% of clips are tagged in some way, which is an extremely high rate, and about 60% of clips are annotated. So our users have a very high level of engagement with clips. And
Right.
so measured in that way, tags are working. People are in fact using them. I think Twitter is a good example of how hashtags have actually worked really well also.